The stadium was silent. Thousands of eyes locked onto a single figure standing alone on the track beneath the floodlights of the Olympic Arena in Tokyo. The bar was set impossibly high, 2.37 meters. One more jump, one more flight into the air, one more chance at history. But this wasn't just another jump. This was the moment that would define a career built on pain, resilience, and an unshakable belief that even gravity could be challenged. Long before the world knew his name, Mutaz Essa Barshim was just a boy growing up in Doha, surrounded by the heat of the desert and the echoes of ambition. Born on June 24, 1991, Mutaz was raised in a family where athletics was not just encouraged, it was a way of life. His father, Essa Barshim, had been an athlete himself, instilling discipline and competitive spirit early on. But Mutaz didn't begin as a high jumper. He tried everything: sprinting, long jump, even football. Like many young athletes, he was searching for that one thing that felt like destiny. And then he found it. The high jump, it wasn't just a sport. It was poetry in motion, a dance with gravity, a moment where time seemed to pause mid-air. And Mutaz was good, very good. By his teenage years, it was clear that Mutaz was no ordinary talent. His natural ability, combined with relentless training, quickly set him apart. He began competing internationally, representing Qatar with pride. Each competition brought new heights, literally and figuratively. But success didn't come overnight. There were early losses, missed jumps, moments of doubt, yet every failure fueled him. Every fall taught him how to rise higher. The world truly began to notice Mutaz Barshim in the early 2010s. At the London 2012 Olympics, he stunned the world by winning bronze. It was a historic moment, not just for him, but for his country. A young man from Doha had stepped onto the Olympic podium, but for Mutaz, bronze wasn't the destination. It was just the beginning. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Between 2013 and 2017, Mutaz dominated the high jump scene. He cleared heights that seemed almost unreal. 2.40 meters, 2.41 meters, heights that placed him among the greatest in history. Fans began calling him the man who defies gravity. At the World Athletics Championships, he claimed gold medals and cemented his legacy as one of the sport's elite. His style was unique, fluid, explosive, almost effortless. When he jumped, it looked like he was floating. But behind that elegance was years of sacrifice, discipline, and pain. Then came the moment that nearly ended everything. In 2018, during a competition, Mutaz suffered a devastating ankle injury. It wasn't just a minor setback. It was the kind of injury that makes athletes question their future. Surgery followed, then months of rehabilitation, endless hours of recovery, doubt crept in. Would he ever jump the same again? Would he ever compete at the highest level? For many athletes, this would have been the end. But Mutaz Barshim is not like most athletes. Recovery was brutal. Every step was a reminder of what he had lost. The body that once soared effortlessly now struggled with basic movement. The mind that once believed in limitless heights now faced uncertainty. But Mutaz refused to give up. Day after day, he trained. Slowly, patiently, painfully. He rebuilt himself, not just physically, but mentally. And with each passing day, something remarkable happened. He got stronger. The Tokyo 2020 Olympics held in 2021, was supposed to be his redemption story. But no one could have predicted what would happen. After an intense competition, only 2 athletes remained, Mutaz Barshim and Gianmarco Tamberi. Both had cleared the same heights. Both had missed the same attempts. They were tied. Officials offered a jump-off to decide the winner. But then, Mutaz asked a simple question. "Can we have 2 golds?" The official paused, then nodded. And in that moment, something bigger than sport happened. Mutaz turned to Tamberi, his friend, a fellow athlete who had also battled injury, and smiled. They embraced. 2 champions. 1 gold. That moment went viral across the world. Not because of the jump, but because of what it represented. Sportsmanship, humanity, brotherhood. In a world often driven by competition, Mutaz chose compassion. He chose to share glory rather than fight for it. And in doing so, he became more than a champion. He became an inspiration. Today, Mutaz Essa Barshim is regarded as one of the greatest high jumpers of all time. His achievements are extraordinary. Olympic gold medalist, multiple world champion, one of the highest jumps in history. But his legacy goes beyond numbers. It lives in every young athlete who dares to dream. In every person who refuses to give up after failure. In every moment where humanity triumphs over rivalry. Back in that Olympic stadium in Tokyo, as the bar stood high and the world watched, Mutaz didn't just jump for himself. He jumped for every setback he had overcome. Every injury he had endured. Every doubt he had silenced. And when he soared over that bar, it wasn't just a physical achievement. It was a statement that no matter how high the obstacle, the human spirit can rise higher. Some athletes chase gold, others chase greatness, but only a few redefine what it means to win. And Mutaz Essa Barshim? He didn't just reach new heights. He changed the meaning of them forever. The ocean does not care who you are. It does not recognize talent or ambition or dreams. It does not make exceptions for youth, for innocence, or for promise. It simply moves endlessly, powerfully, without apology. And yet, for some, the ocean becomes more than water and waves. It becomes identity. It becomes purpose. It becomes life itself. This is the true story of Bethany Hamilton, a girl who found her life in the ocean, faced unimaginable loss, and chose, against all odds, to rise. She was born into rhythm. Not the rhythm of city streets or crowded spaces, but the steady, breathing rhythm of the sea. On the island of Kauai, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the waves speak in a language older than time, Bethany's life began in motion. From the very beginning, she belonged to the water. Before she could fully understand the world, she understood the ocean. Its pull, its energy, its unpredictability. It was not something she feared. It was something she trusted. As a child, she ran toward the waves while others held back. She did not hesitate. She did not question. She simply went. There was something instinctive about her connection to the sea, something that could not be taught, only felt. Surfing became her expression, her way of speaking without words. her way of understanding the world around her. Each wave she rode shaped her. Each fall strengthened her. Each early morning built a quiet discipline within her that would one day become her greatest strength. She did not yet know how important that strength would be, but it was growing. Day by day, wave by wave. As she got older, her passion deepened. What began as joy became focus. What began as play became purpose. She entered competitions not out of pressure, but out of love for the sport. And she excelled. She won. Again and again. Not just because she was talented, but because she was committed. She studied the ocean. She respected it. She learned its patterns. And in doing so, she learned herself. Her confidence grew with every success. Her dream became clearer. She would become a professional surfer. It was not just a hope. It was a direction. A path she was already walking. Everything seemed aligned. Everything seemed possible. Until the day everything changed. October 31st, 2003. A morning that began like any other. The ocean was calm. The sky was clear. There was no sign of danger. No indication that anything was different. Bethany entered the water with ease. She paddled out with friends, her mind focused, her body moving in familiar rhythm. It was a moment like so many before. Peaceful. Ordinary. Safe. But beneath the surface, unseen and silent, something moved. A force of nature. Unpredictable. Unstoppable. In a single instant, the calm shattered. The attack came without warning, a sudden, violent interruption of everything she knew. There was no time to react, no time to understand. Only impact. Only shock. Only the overwhelming reality that something was terribly wrong. Her arm was gone. The water turned red. Time slowed into fragments. Sound disappeared into silence. And in that moment, everything changed. But what remained was life. She was pulled from the water, rushed toward help. Her body had lost a dangerous amount of blood. Every second became critical. Every moment uncertain. The line between survival and loss grew thinner. But somehow, she held on. Through the pain. Through the shock. Through the unimaginable reality of what had just happened. She held on. And she survived. But survival was only the beginning of a much greater challenge. Because waking up meant facing a new reality. A reality where nothing was the same. A reality where the future she had always imagined no longer existed in the same way. There was pain. There was confusion. There was loss. But there was also something else. Something deeper. Something unbroken. Her spirit. Because even in that fragile state, her thoughts did not turn toward fear. They did not settle into despair. Instead, they moved towards something familiar. Something constant. The ocean. The place she loved most. And in that quiet moment, without needing to say it aloud, a decision was made. She would return. Recovery was not easy. It demanded patience. It demanded effort. It demanded resilience in ways she had never experienced before. Simple tasks became difficult. Movements that once felt natural now required focus and intention. Balance had to be relearned. Strength had to be rebuilt. Confidence had to be rediscovered. There were moments of frustration. Moments where progress felt slow. Moments where doubt quietly appeared. But those moments did not define her, because she chose something stronger. She chose determination. She chose persistence. She chose to move forward. And then came the moment that would define her journey: the return to the ocean. It could have been a place of fear, a reminder of trauma, symbol of loss. But for Bethany, it was still home. Stepping back into the water was not just physical, it was emotional. It was mental. It was a declaration, a statement that what had happened would not control what came next. The first attempts were difficult. Balance was different. Timing was unfamiliar. Every movement required adjustment. But she did not stop, because stopping was never part of her story. Wave after wave, she tried again, fell again, rose again, and slowly she adapted. Her technique evolved. Her strength shifted. Her approach changed. But her passion remained exactly the same. And with time, something incredible happened. She did not just return to surfing, she reclaimed it. She returned to competition. She stood once again among athletes who had trained their entire lives. But now, she carried something different. A story, a struggle, a resilience that could not be taught. And she competed, not as someone defined by loss, but as someone defined by strength. And then, she won. Her victories were not just measured in results. They were measured in meaning, because every wave she rode was proof. Proof that she was still capable. Proof that she was still herself. Proof that nothing had taken away who she truly was. Her story began to spread across communities, across countries, across the world. People saw in her something powerful. Not perfection, not invincibility, but resilience. They saw someone who had faced unimaginable loss and chosen to rise. Someone who had every reason to step back and instead stepped forward. Her journey became a source of inspiration for those facing challenges, for those questioning their strength, for those searching for hope. Because her story was not just about surfing, it was about life. It was about the human ability to endure, to adapt, to overcome. Years passed, but Bethany did not slow down. She continued to surf, continued to compete, continued to challenge herself. She built a life filled with meaning, a life shaped not by what had happened to her, but by how she chose to respond. She became more than an athlete, more than a survivor. She became a symbol of courage, a voice of resilience, a reminder that strength is not about what you have, but about what you do with what remains. Her life expanded beyond the waves. Family became part of her journey. Love became part of her story. New chapters unfolded, but through it all, one thing remained constant: the ocean. She returned to it again and again, not because it was easy, but because it was true. because it was part of who she was. Bethany Hamilton's story is not defined by a single moment. Not by the attack, not by the loss, but by everything that came after. By the choices she made, by the strength she showed, by the refusal to let one moment define an entire life. Her journey reminds us that hardship is not the end. That loss does not erase purpose. That even in the most difficult moments, something within us remains unbroken. The ocean continues to move. Waves rise and fall. Unpredictable. Relentless. Beautiful. And somewhere within that motion, a surfer rides forward. Not untouched by struggle, but strengthened by it. Not defined by loss, but shaped by resilience. And in that movement, we are reminded of something powerful. That no matter how deep the fall, rising is always possible. And sometimes, rising changes everything. The waves will keep coming. Life will keep changing. There will always be moments that test your strength, challenge your limits, and force you to decide who you truly are. Bethany Hamilton's story is not just about survival. It is about choice. The choice to rise when everything tells you to fall. The choice to move forward when fear tries to hold you back. The choice to become stronger, not in spite of struggle, but because of it. And that same choice lives in you. Every challenge you face, every obstacle in your path carries the same question. Will you stop? Or will you rise? This is more than a story. It is a reminder that resilience is built, that courage is chosen, and that greatness is not given, it is earned. So whatever your wave may be, face it. Ride it. Rise above it. And if you're ready to turn your story into something powerful, if you're ready to push beyond limits and redefine what's possible, then this is your moment. This is your call. Welcome to Athletory Studios, where strength is forged, stories are built, and limits are meant to be broken. Your journey doesn't end here. It begins now. Wilma Glodian Rudolph was born on June 23, 1940, in Clarksville, Tennessee, into a world that offered her very little chance of survival and even less opportunity for success. She was the 20th of 22 children in a poor African-American family living in the segregated American South. Her father worked as a porter and did odd jobs to support the family, while her mother worked as a maid. Resources were scarce, and life was already a daily struggle. From the moment she was born, Wilma's odds were stacked against her. She arrived prematurely, weighing just over 4 pounds. Doctors did not expect her to live long, but she survived those first fragile days, held together by her mother's care and a quiet, unshakable will that would define her entire life. Her early childhood was marked by constant illness. Her small body battled one disease after another: measles, scarlet fever, and pneumonia. Each sickness left her weaker than before. While other children ran and played freely, Wilma spent long stretches confined, watching life from the sidelines. Then came the illness that would change everything. At the age of 5, Wilma was diagnosed with polio, a disease that at the time terrified families across the country. It attacked her left leg, leaving it twisted, weakened, and unable to function properly. She lost the ability to walk normally. Doctors fitted her with a heavy metal brace that stretched from her foot to her thigh and delivered devastating news to her family. Wilma would likely never walk again. For many, that would have been the end of hope. but not for Wilma's mother. She refused to accept the limits placed on her daughter's future. She believed that with enough care, effort, and faith, Wilma could recover. Every week she took Wilma on a long journey, over 50 miles, to receive treatment at a hospital that would see Black patients. The trips were exhausting and expensive, but she never missed them. At home, Wilma's recovery became a family mission. Her siblings took turns massaging her leg daily, following the instructions given by doctors. It was painful work, slow and repetitive, but it was filled with determination. Day after day, year after year, they kept going. Wilma grew up surrounded by that effort, that belief. Even as a young child, she refused to see herself as broken. She wanted to run, to play, to live like the other children she watched from afar. Progress came slowly. There were no sudden miracles, only small, hard-earned victories. By the time she was around 9 years old, Wilma began experimenting with removing her brace for short periods. At first, she could barely stand. Her leg trembled under her weight. But she kept trying. One day, she stood without the brace and did not fall. Then she took a step. Then another. Those first steps were uncertain, uneven, and fragile. But they were hers. And they changed everything. By the age of 12, Wilma Rudolph had done what doctors once said was impossible. She was walking without assistance. Not only that, she began to run. Running was not graceful at first. It was awkward, uneven, and difficult. But to Wilma, it was freedom. Every stride was a victory over the years she had spent confined by illness. She joined her school's basketball team hoping to prove herself. But success did not come immediately. She struggled to keep up with her teammates, she missed shots, she was often overlooked. But Wilma had learned something far more important than skill. She had learned persistence. She practiced relentlessly, staying after games, running drills over and over again. She refused to give up, no matter how far behind she seemed. Slowly, her body grew stronger, her movements became smoother, and her speed, her natural, extraordinary speed, began to reveal itself. It wasn't long before a track and field coach noticed her. He saw something in Wilma that others had missed. A rare combination of determination and raw talent. He invited her to train seriously in track. Wilma accepted. Training was not easy. It required discipline, sacrifice, and long hours of hard work. She had to travel significant distances for practice, balancing school, family responsibilities, and athletics. There were days when she was exhausted, days when her body ached, days when giving up would have been easier. But she never forgot where she started. She never forgot the brace. Every time she ran, she carried that memory with her, not as a burden, but as fuel. Her progress was rapid. The same determination that had helped her walk again now pushed her to excel in competition. She began winning races, gaining recognition, and building confidence. At just 16 years old, Wilma qualified for the 1956 Olympic Games in Melbourne, Australia. It was an extraordinary achievement, especially for someone who had once been told she would never walk. Although she did not win individual gold medals in those games, she gained invaluable experience competing on the world stage. She returned home more determined than ever. Over the next 4 years, Wilma trained harder than she ever had before. She refined her technique, strengthened her body, and sharpened her focus. She was no longer just a survivor. She was becoming a contender. In 1960, she qualified again for the Olympic Games, this time in Rome. The world did not yet know her name. But they were about to. When Wilma stepped onto the track in Rome, she carried with her not just her own dreams, but the weight of her journey. The illnesses, the brace, the years of struggle, the belief of her family. When the starting gun fired, she ran with a speed and grace that stunned spectators. She won the gold medal in the 100 meters, becoming the fastest woman in the world. Then she ran the 200 meters, another gold. Finally, she anchored the 4x100 meter relay team, securing a third gold medal. 3 gold medals in a single Olympic Games. Wilma Rudolph had not only reached the top of her sport, she had rewritten what was possible. Her victories made her an international sensation. She became a symbol of hope, resilience, and excellence. But her impact extended far beyond athletics. When she returned to her hometown of Clarksville, plans were made to celebrate her achievements. At the time, public events in the town were still segregated. Wilma refused to attend unless the celebration was integrated. Her stance forced a change. Her homecoming parade became the first integrated public event in Clarksville's history. In that moment, Wilma was not just a champion on the track, she was a force for social change. In the years that followed, she used her platform to inspire others. She became a teacher and a coach, dedicating her life to helping young people discover their potential. She spoke about perseverance, about believing in oneself, and about overcoming obstacles. She understood what it meant to be counted out, and she showed the world what it meant to rise anyway. Wilma Rudolph's journey was not defined by the medals she won, but by the barriers she broke along the way. From a premature baby who was not expected to survive, to a child who was told she would never walk, to the fastest woman in the world, her life was a testament to the power of determination and belief. She proved that limits are not always real. Sometimes they are simply challenges waiting to be overcome. Her story continues to inspire generations, reminding us that greatness is not always born. It is built, step by step, through struggle, resilience, and the courage to keep moving forward. The girl who once struggled to take a single step went on to outrun the world, and in doing so, she changed it forever. Snow falls softly over a quiet mountain range. The wind hums like a distant whisper, and the world feels still until a flash of red streaks down the slope. A snowboard cuts through powder with precision, launching into the air, twisting, flipping, defying gravity itself. The crowd roars. This is not just a sport. This is a life forged through adversity, obsession, and relentless will. This is the story of Shaun White. Shaun Roger White was born on September 3, 1986 in San Diego, California. From the outside, his childhood looked like a typical Southern California upbringing: sunshine, beaches, and endless possibility. But beneath that surface was a much more fragile reality. Shaun was born with a congenital heart defect known as tetralogy of Fallot, a serious condition that required 2 open-heart surgeries before he even turned 1 year old. For most parents, that diagnosis would have meant a life of caution, limits, and fear. But Shaun's parents, Kathy and Roger White, chose a different path. They refused to let his condition define him. Instead of raising him in a bubble, they encouraged him to explore, to move, to live fully. It was a risky choice, but one that would change everything. Shaun's older brother Jesse was already into snowboarding. Naturally, Shaun followed. At just 4 years old, he strapped into a snowboard for the first time. It didn't take long for something to click. What started as playful imitation quickly turned into something more intense. Shaun wasn't just riding. He was studying, experimenting, pushing himself in ways that seemed unnatural for someone so young. He fell often, hard. But every fall was followed by another attempt. His mother would often sleep in their van during trips to the mountains, saving money so Sean could train. The family sacrificed comfort for opportunity, long drives for short runs on the slopes. This wasn't luxury, this was commitment. By the time Sean was 7, his talent was undeniable. But talent alone doesn't create legends. Sean had something else, an almost obsessive drive. He wasn't satisfied with being good, he wanted to be the best. At a young age, he began competing in amateur snowboarding events, often against kids much older than him. He didn't just keep up, he dominated. But his journey wasn't smooth. There were injuries, there were losses, there were moments when the pressure felt too heavy for a kid who hadn't even reached his teenage years. And then there was the constant balancing act between normal life and an extraordinary path. School, friendships, growing up, it all had to fit around a life centered on the mountain. At 13, Sean turned professional. That alone would be impressive. But what followed was something else entirely. He began competing in major events, gaining attention not just for his skill but for his style. He wasn't just executing tricks, he was redefining what was possible. Snowboarding at the time was evolving rapidly, but Sean pushed it further. Higher jumps, faster spins, more technical combinations. He also crossed into skateboarding, proving his versatility and athletic range. Few athletes could dominate in two action sports simultaneously. But with recognition came pressure. The expectations grew, the spotlight intensified, and suddenly, the kid from San Diego was carrying the weight of becoming something much bigger. For Sean, the Olympics weren't just a goal, they were the ultimate stage. In 2006, at the Winter Olympics in Turin, Italy, Shaun White entered as a favorite in the halfpipe event. The pressure was immense. Millions watching, years of preparation leading to a few moments on snow. But Sean delivered. With a near-flawless run, he secured his first Olympic gold medal. It was a defining moment, not just for him, but for snowboarding as a sport. He wasn't just a competitor anymore. He was a global icon. Success brings rewards, but it also brings challenges. After his Olympic victory, Sean became one of the most recognizable faces in sports. Endorsements, media appearances, fame, it all came quickly. But behind the scenes, the grind never stopped. To stay at the top, Sean had to keep evolving. The sport was advancing rapidly, with younger athletes pushing boundaries. Every year, the tricks got harder, the risks got greater. And then came setbacks. Injuries began to take their toll. Crashes, close calls, moments where everything could have ended in an instant. There were also criticisms, questions about his focus, his priorities, whether he could maintain his dominance. For the first time, doubt crept into the narrative. The 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi marked a turning point. Sean chose not to compete in the slopestyle event, focusing solely on the halfpipe. But in a surprising outcome, he finished off the podium. For many athletes, that moment could have signaled the beginning of the end. But not for Sean. Instead of walking away, he chose to rebuild. He trained harder than ever, refining his technique, studying his competition, and pushing himself into new territory. Then, in 2017, during training, Sean suffered a brutal crash that required 62 stitches to his face. It was a stark reminder of the dangers of his sport. But even that didn't stop him. At the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, Sean returned with something to prove. This wasn't just about winning, it was about redemption. In the final run of the halfpipe event, Sean delivered one of the most iconic performances in Olympic history. Needing a near-perfect score to win, he executed a run packed with technical brilliance and fearless execution. When the score came in, it confirmed what everyone had just witnessed. Gold medal. Again. It was more than a victory, it was a statement. Shaun White wasn't done. As Shaun's career progressed, he began to explore life beyond competition. He ventured into business, music, and fashion. He became a mentor figure for younger athletes, helping to shape the next generation. But perhaps more importantly, he began to reflect on his journey, on the sacrifices, on the moments that defined him. He spoke openly about the pressures of fame, the mental challenges of elite competition, and the importance of resilience. His story wasn't just about winning, it was about enduring. Shaun White eventually stepped away from Olympic competition, leaving behind a legacy that goes far beyond medals. He changed snowboarding. He elevated it, popularized it, transformed it into a global spectacle. But his true legacy lies in something deeper. A child born with a serious heart condition grew into one of the greatest action sports athletes of all time. A boy who fell countless times learned how to rise again and again. A competitor who faced doubt, injury, and pressure chose to keep going. The mountain is quiet again. The same slopes where a young boy once struggled to find his balance now stand as a testament to what's possible. A snowboard rests in the snow, edges worn, surface scratched, a symbol of years of effort, risk, and triumph. Somewhere in the distance, a rider takes off into the air. For a brief moment, they fly. And in that moment, the story continues. Greatness isn't about never falling. It's about how many times you rise and how high you're willing to go. The story begins in the vast highlands of Ethiopia, where the land stretches endlessly and life moves to the rhythm of endurance. Long before the world knew his name, a young man ran across these rugged paths, not for medals or recognition, but because movement was a part of survival. His name was Abebe Bikila, and his journey would go on to transform the history of sport and redefine the limits of human resilience. Born in 1932 in a rural village, Bikila grew up in a country marked by both pride and struggle. Ethiopia had faced the harsh realities of foreign occupation during the Italian invasion of the 1930s, and the memory of resistance was still alive in the national consciousness. Life in the countryside demanded strength from an early age. There were no paved roads or training facilities, only uneven terrain and long distances that had to be crossed daily. Without knowing it, Bikila was building extraordinary endurance, his body adapting naturally to the demands of his environment. As he grew older, he joined the Imperial Guard of Emperor Haile Selassie, one of the most elite units in the country. Military life introduced discipline and structure, sharpening his physical abilities and mental focus. It was within this environment that his potential as a runner began to emerge. Unlike many athletes who follow carefully designed training programs from a young age, Bikila's development was organic, shaped by necessity rather than design. His entry into competitive athletics came unexpectedly. A coach recognized something exceptional in his stride, an efficiency and calmness that set him apart. This recognition led to his inclusion in Ethiopia's Olympic program, though even then, he was not considered the team's leading contender. In fact, His opportunity to compete on the world stage came as a result of circumstance when he was selected as a late replacement for the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome. Arriving in Rome, Bikila was largely unknown. He carried no international reputation, no record of major victories, and no expectation of success. The marathon, one of the most grueling events in the Olympic Games, was dominated by experienced runners from around the world. For Bikila, it was his first true test at this level. Just before the race, an unexpected problem arose. The running shoes provided to him did not fit properly, threatening to disrupt his performance. Rather than risk injury or discomfort, he made a decision that would become one of the most iconic moments in sports history. He chose to run barefoot. It was a decision born out of practicality, but it would soon take on profound symbolic meaning. The marathon took place in the evening, with runners passing through the historic streets of Rome under the glow of torchlight. Among the competitors was Radi Ben Abdeselim, a strong and determined athlete who quickly emerged as Bikila's closest rival. For much of the race, the two men ran side by side, matching each other stride for stride. The tension between them grew with every mile, neither willing to concede ground. As the race neared its final stages, they passed a significant landmark, the obelisk of Axum, a monument that had been taken from Ethiopia during Italy's occupation. In that moment, the race carried a deeper significance. It was no longer just about victory, but about history, identity, and pride. It was here that Bikila made his decisive move. With a sudden burst of speed, he broke away from Abdeselim, creating a gap that continued to widen as he approached the finish line. His stride remained steady and controlled, even after more than 40 kilometers of running. When he crossed the finish line, he did so alone, setting a new world record. His victory at the 1960 Summer Olympics was historic. He became the first Black African to win an Olympic gold medal, and his achievement resonated across the continent and beyond. For many, it symbolized a new era, one in which African athletes could stand at the pinnacle of global competition. Bikila's barefoot run became an enduring image of determination, simplicity, and triumph. In the years that followed, Bikila's life changed dramatically. He was no longer an unknown soldier, but an international icon. Yet, despite his newfound fame, he remained grounded, continuing to train with the same discipline and humility that had defined his early years. 4 years later, he returned to compete in the 1964 Summer Olympics. This time, the expectations were immense. He was the defending champion, and the world was watching closely to see if he could repeat his success. However, his preparation was disrupted by a serious health issue. Just weeks before the marathon, he underwent surgery for appendicitis. Many doubted whether he would even be able to compete, let alone win. Defying those doubts, Bikila entered the race. Unlike in Rome, he wore running shoes, but his approach remained the same: focused, controlled, and unwavering. From the early stages of the race, he established a strong pace, gradually distancing himself from the rest of the field. There was no dramatic sprint at the end this time. Instead, his dominance was clear and consistent throughout. As he approached the finish line, there was no challenger in sight. He crossed it alone, once again, setting another world record. With this victory at the 1964 Summer Olympics, Bikila became the first athlete in history to win back-to-back Olympic marathons. His achievements cemented his place among the greatest long-distance runners of all time. Despite his success, Bikila's life would take a tragic turn. In 1969, he was involved in a car accident that left him paralyzed from the waist down. For a man whose identity had been built around running, the impact was profound. The physical limitations imposed by his injury could have ended his engagement with sport entirely. However, Bikila refused to accept defeat. Demonstrating the same resilience that had defined his running career, he adapted to his new reality. He took up sports such as archery and table tennis, continuing to train and compete despite his paralysis. His determination to remain active and engaged served as an inspiration to many, proving that his strength extended far beyond physical endurance. In 1973, at the age of 41, Ababy Bikila passed away. Though his life was relatively short, his impact was immense. He left behind a legacy that transcended athletics, influencing generations of runners and reshaping global perceptions of African athletes. Today, his story continues to inspire. His victories are remembered not just for the records he set, but for the barriers he broke. He demonstrated that greatness can emerge from the most unexpected places, that determination can overcome adversity, and that true strength lies not only in physical ability, but in the will to persevere. Ababy Bikila's journey, from a barefoot runner in the Ethiopian highlands to a two-time Olympic champion, remains one of the most powerful stories in the history of sport. His footsteps, once pressed into the streets of Rome and Tokyo, continue to echo across time, reminding the world that limits are often meant to be challenged and sometimes even redefined.